I would like to call to order this meeting of the Planning Board for June 6th, 2019. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kristen, is the switch on?
It is. BCAT hasn't quite picked us up yet, though. There they go. We're on.
Welcome, everyone. The first item on our agenda is citizens' time. If there is anyone in the audience that would like to speak on a matter that is not on our agenda, please come forward. Seeing no one, we will move on to announcements.
Announcements. First, I want to thank all of you who attended last night our Master Plan Housing and Town Center Forum. It's been a long time since we've had a forum. It was great. Great to have it. It was very well attended. We had a lot of feedback. And I want to thank all of you and anyone in the audience and anyone that's watching us on TV for attending. It was very good. Hope to continue the dialogue. Next, the 61 Center Street Subcommittee meeting, which is discussing parking at the Human Services Building, will be held on June 12th at 6 p.m. on site. Later that evening as well, the Land Use Committee is meeting at 7 p.m. I believe they're meeting in the Town Hall Annex basement meeting room. And then the Sculpture Park Subcommittee meeting is scheduled to meet June 18th at 7:30 a.m. Is that correct? Or p.m.?
AM.
It is a.m.
Yes,
Okay.
it is AM. We are bright and early.
In the Town Hall Annex basement meeting room.
Yes.
I call that late at night.
Madam Chair, who's our subcommittee for the 61 Center Street? I know there were a couple of people that picked out. I've been just starting to draw some stuff up, and I wanted to see.
It is, it was Bill and/or Joe and/or Bill and Joe, and Ernie.
Okay, thanks.
So,
What I'll do
and
is
it
I'll
was
send
just
it
for
to you.
availability between member Gaffney, member Impemba, just to make sure
We want at least one of you there.
at least one of you were there.
I got some stuff else, just I'll send it to you, and you can
Yep.
send it out, maybe to the whole squad.
That sounds great.
Okay.
And that's all I have, if anyone else has anything else.
I have a question, please. On the 61 Center Street, it says the meeting is at the site. I hope we're going to do like a subcommittee meeting, because the first time around, when I went to the first meeting, it was outside, and the town administrator pretty much had in mind what he wanted. I mentioned a couple of things that went right by him, and as a result, we ended up with them sitting here with a take it or leave it. And if that's what that median's up, it's good, they're gonna get another take it or leave it.
I can tell you the new town administrator is approaching it differently than that first meeting on, so I don't know. We're meeting on site to walk the site. I'm not sure what room we might be retreating to
So
sit
we're gonna
around to
go in
talk
and
about it.
discuss?
But I'll let you know. Yep.
Just
Thank
on
you.
that same point.
It's a good point.
The I don't know if they were the applicant or the administration left before the townsfolk had some comments. I was wondering if we could pick up the date when that was on video and maybe send it to the new town administrator and the selectmen that were there and then left before they could hear what the actual public said about that. Because I thought it was important with their input, but they weren't here to.
You're right.
Sure,
hear it.
we'll get the minutes of the meeting and try to get the tape.
Yeah, give them the time
to
of the
send
tape and say,
around.
take before they go,
Yep.
they would mind taking a look at the tape, because I thought their input was really
Yeah, and we
important
had
and a
a,
little bit different than what the administration was.
Right, and there were also comments from those department heads that are in the building
Right,
as well.
right.
Right. Good idea.
Yep.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
If I
Madam Chair.
may also, I just want to note that today was D-Day, and I was 11 years old, and I remembered that. And we're at that age, that's all there was a war going on and so forth. And I can remember President Roosevelt coming on and say they're going in.
Yep.
And I would also recommend, if many of you get a chance to go to France and people that go to Paris, but if you have an opportunity, go out to Normandy and see that cemetery with 9,000 row on row. And most of them were, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and they all died, 2,000 miles from home. So you'll remember it, and if you go there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. We do not have any legal notices or non-approvals, so we will move on to item number 6 on our agenda, administrative matters. Item 6A is a discussion, application for approval of a minor engineering change, 147 South Bedford Street. Pink and Company is the applicant. Hello and welcome. Please state your names for the record. Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'm going to put this in because I am about to become,
You're sitting in the vice chair seat.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I don't know if your mic is on.
hoping to get notified very quickly that I'm going to become,
Oh, can you pull that very close? I'm not sure it's working.
all right, is that better?
This stuff, so I better leave.
Any better?
Not really.
Then I'll work-
Can we check and see
Any
if
better?
Bob's mic?
Yes.
That's
Now it
better.
is.
Yes, right there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Robert Buckley, Rena Bronstein. To my left, Bill Maher from Nitch and Company, and Chris Baylor, the architect for the project. We're here to talk about the minor engineering change, the changes from the plans originally approved. Many of the changes have been worked out with staff and over the course of the last year. There were a couple that I think I would like to highlight for the board's information. Some of the major ones, initially, if you recall, the water line was going to be replaced going down South Bedford Street. The town of Burlington came to us, the engineering department asked us to explore running it down across South Bedford, down through the Mary Cummings homestead and tying into Cambridge Street. That allows for better circulation of the water and solves the town's problem with stagnation down there, so we have done that. I believe that is complete and operational now. Another issue was with respect to the site circulation, which there was some concern whether the fire vehicles could make a circular path around the site. We have had that, we've studied that and addressed that with the fire department where necessary. We've worked with the trustees to relocate the trailhead down closer to what is called the VC building, is that? VCC building, working with the trustees as to that location and the city of Woburn for access across the Mary Cummings property for the city of Woburn. The major change, and we'll, if we could put the board up, we have plans, I believe you all have, through the Board of Health, and it's in your condition and your permit, they had asked us to look at the structural integrity of the abandoned silos. There were 2 on site. We did do that. As a matter of fact, we did present that report last week to the Board of Health. There was some concern that the heaviest fire vehicle may pose a problem for the structural integrity of that. So what we've done is redesign the front entrance, creating more of a park-like environment, and providing that the abandoned silos will stay non-accessible. That one of them is in the midst of that green area to the left, and the other will be cordoned off with a not a fence, but a guardrail. We have agreed with the Board of Health to work with them on a condition, I think it should be in your conditions, that the structural integrity reports work out a schedule to test those over time. Once a year, I think would be reasonable to inspect them to make sure that they stay in the current state. Trying to think the other issue was with respect to the trash compactor. We've enlarged that because we are now doing recycling. It doesn't change the visibility, the screening stays the same, but the pad is slightly larger. So that's just a change on the plan. Those are the major changes, and if you'd like, we'll take you through anything in detail.
Look, I'm not sure if it's necessary. I'll defer to staff.
So if you guys recall, the last meeting, I was underdressed than usual. I spent most of the 2 weeks ago out in the field with the trustees,
Say
and
underdressed?
I was wearing jeans
Oh.
and a sweatshirt.
Underdressed. Not under duress.
I wasn't underdressed. Anyway, I was out in the field all day 2 weeks ago with Northeastern and the trustees, walked the site, literally with balloon tests, moving balloons around as to where the trees were going to be placed. But we also talked about the changes here. Previous to that site visit, I also was out there with the fire department to discuss this change. And if you guys can put up the original, that plan that you have on the bottom there for a minute. The original plan had a circulation to the front of the building that had an island and circulated in front of it. The silo is right under that island. They were going to crush the silo. It was determined that they'd rather keep the silo for the historical significance of it. But with that, there was a lot of issue with the load bearing over it. So what they're doing is they're bringing a park all the way forward, so it'll be a nice green, kind of a campus-like feature in front of the building, and reinforcing the walkway coming in to be able to handle the load of a fire apparatus, so they can get in. And the other changes, there's just a handful of them of minor shifts of things along the way that we've discussed, so kind of housekeeping to clean that up. Otherwise, we don't have any concerns moving forward. We've had recently meetings with the Northeastern brings a large group when they meet, so we've had a meeting with large groups to discuss these changes, and we've had a close discussion with the trustees as of recently, and the trustees actually just recently had a forum on Tuesday, which I know some of you attended, about their future plans for the park, which unrelated to this, but it's been a good conversation with the trustees. So other than that, we recommend favorably. We have a decision drafted for you, and to the Board of Health comments, they meet on the 23rd to discuss this. We have agreed with the Board of Health. We will, of course, incorporate all of their comments into the decision, but that'll just mean that we won't be filing until after their meeting on the 23rd.
We had a very good meeting with the Board of Health and agreed to all their conditions, so.
All right, thank you. I think I'm going to start down your end. Jack, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a minor engineering change. Has 4 pages of text associated with it. Is there an explanation of why there's so much without me having to read it all?
Well, you have your, we copied all the the operational conditions.
This, Jack, is this what you're talking about?
No.
No, I'm talking about
The
Well,
decision.
If I may, Madam Chair,
No,
repeating stuff from before?
Yes,
or-
yes.
Okay, most of it's repeating, just restating what we did before.
and it's
Okay.
it's a code, I mean, in a sense,
page 1 to 1.5 are related to the specifics. The
Okay.
2.5 pages beyond that are typical.
I guess the other question, has anyone checked, is there anything living down there that we don't want?
we have had people in it, we've done inspections. No. No, that was part of the structural review.
The increase.
Entry was made, and entry is possible, there are stairs there, and that's one of the things we'll be doing with the Board of Health, is annually inspecting it.
Okay. That's it, thank you.
Thank you.
No?
Do we have any, we don't have any comments, right? There's no comments on this.
They didn't give me any.
Oh, you have the comments. There we go.
There
Sorry
we go.
about that. Mike,
Go ahead.
The comments, and Joe wasn't here, the no objections from the building inspector. DPW had something,
At standard, you can read them.
You
but
can
standard,
read them.
do you want me to read them, or
you don't have to, because
No?
they're standard.
standard?
You're aware, correct?
Fire department, no objections, and Conservation Commission had standard objections, but at the end it says that the revision satisfies their demands, so
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions?
I do not.
Bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just kind of reviewing this. It looks like there's a change in parking spaces, and it looks like there's now a count of, does it look like there's now 351? What was it prior to that?
It was 423, I believe.
423?
And when we did the traffic analysis, the sensitivity analysis, which was done back then, actually had a lower number in terms of parking. So we're well within the range of that study.
Thank you. And I'm just not getting what's changed in the entrance there, so would you mind standing up and tell me the before and after piece of that?
Sure.
So you come up the drive, right,
This is as approved.
as approved. Yep,
You see that, Bill?
yep, thank you.
Is what it
So
was.
this is the design that was approved about this time last year, where the drive aisle came much closer to the building with handicap spaces in this area here. A little bit hard to see on this drawing, but you can probably see it on the copy that you have. This dotted line represents the outline of the existing south bunker. And so as you can see, a portion of this drive lane and handicap parking spaces actually sits over the footprint of the bunker. So that's essentially the issue that we were trying to address. And so if we jump to the proposed, you see that the green space has been increased quite a bit. Any existing asphalt that was in this area is being removed. So now you have a pervious surface where you didn't before, so that's obviously a benefit. And the parking in the drive is now shifted north to this location. Pedestrian access to the building remains essentially the same as it was before. The distance is a little bit longer. And this is also designed, although the fire department will be staging from the rear of the building where the fire department connection is. This drive lane is wide enough and also has the structural capacity to support a fire truck. So they have the option of bringing a fire truck straight down here. There are a series of bollards that protect this planted area, so there's no opportunity for a vehicle to drive on it or drive over the footprint of the bunker.
So, thank you for that. And so if I kind of lay one over the other, the handicap spaces are maybe, with 20 feet from the building or 30 feet from the building maybe, and now they're probably 40 or 50 feet, is that right?
Approximately, yes.
Yeah, so we doubled the handicap. Is there any, law that says how far they have to be away from, or how close they have to be to the building? Or they can say you can go, just be
I think they need to be the closest spot.
closest, okay, thank you.
One thing that, Bill, that was addressed in doing this is that the route from the handicap space to the front door, you no longer have to cross a drive lane.
Okay.
So we've improved, although the distance is a little bit longer, we've improved the safety of that route.
And I guess the remaining question I had was with regard to the comment I heard about you're keeping the silos for the historic nature of it. I think, is that what?
Yes, I
heard?
wondered about that as well.
So, is there access to the silos for people to look at them? So what does that look like? Is there like-
What we're doing as part of this work for both the north, the south and the north bunker, is to provide a series of hatches in kind of strategic locations
Okay.
where you can access, you can do a visual inspection. If you needed to send down some piece of mechanical equipment, drone or something like that to do an inspection, you could do that as well. And so that's the case for both bunkers. We're creating those.
So if I'm interested in silos from, the 50s, from a historic nature, can I go in there?
No.
They're not occupiable to the public, no.
Okay.
They're
Can
not
I,
meant to
can
be
I, s- can I see them if I enter the site? Would I be able to see and I go, oh, that's the silo from the Nike site?
There's a earth berm, if you're familiar with it. It's a long rectangular earth berm that essentially was the opening from the storage below with a raised platform up. So that berm is apparent here and will remain. This getting re-landscaped, that berm would probably be consumed in the new landscape and probably you wouldn't really see it.
Okay. So I guess the comment about you keeping them for the historic nature of them is probably not accurate, is that right?
That's the first I've heard that.
Okay. And I forgot
it's
who said it, but I noted it
Yeah,
down. So-
it basically is the cost of removal.
Well,
doesn't
that's what
just-
I think is what I want to get the truth out of this, the fake
History
news,
says
right?
they've never spent that kind of money to remove anything like
So
that.
I will say, I did hear, I'd said it, and I did hear it when I was out on site, so whether
Who'd
it's,
you hear it from? It's kind of, yeah. So what I would recommend, because I think it is very interesting about having the silos up there, and, you know, if you're going to keep them, I think it is a historic nature of it. And since you're keeping them now, would it make sense that you have a landmark and kind of do some description on top of them, and located here was the silos from the 50, maybe no picture of it,
We
say
can
here's what
actually
it looked
look
like.
into providing some type of informational plaque or something, because they will be secured.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's closed space,
Yeah, and I'd love to go down and take a look at one,
Oh,
you know
no.
what I mean?
Was there any way to,
By camera, you know?
create a viewing area for them? There's no way to even create a viewing area like that?
You
They're
have a
really far
staircase that goes down.
Do some pictures and put them in the hall.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
that's just
yeah.
like a plaque or in the hallway, that's not a bad
Yeah.
idea.
And maybe, I would say locators too, so here's where they were, and then in the hallway, you can.
We actually do have some photographs from way back.
Here's where they were.
Again,
probably-
maybe,
Spend the money to remove them.
well, exactly. I mean, it's small compared to what that, so I'm thinking maybe in the spirit of, you know, the sculpture parks and things like that, and more the site of interest, if you put it on the Burlington website, here's where the Nike said, go visit up there, you can see the site, you can see the commemorative areas of that.
Right, although I think if there's pictures in the hallway explaining things,
Can't
I
get in.
don't think that building is accessible to the public.
Oh, probably not, you're right.
They probably will be able to get it.
Yeah, I would
I
try
thought you had
to,
to
maybe
have
put a sculpture up there of
access.
a Nike missile or something, you know? I'm not kidding, I'm thinking it might be
No, I
appropriate
think
Well,
right
one
for
of
the
the,
site.
one of the things that I saw when I walked the landlocked forest with those, what do they call them, the Q codes or whatever?
A QR code.
QR
QR
codes, yeah.
codes, which I thought was an interesting,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there's some, you can,
Something like that, so
Well,
we
we'll
can
look
put that
into
in the condition to maybe,
I
to the
think it's a
approval of
nice
the chairman.
idea to have
Yeah.
some sort of
Commemorative.
informational,
Commemoration.
commemorative and also informational
Yeah.
plaque, so that people understand what it was
What
there
went on.
for and how it was
I like the
used.
QR code too, it's just,
Yeah,
Maybe
Snap
could get the veterans,
I like that idea, well, great idea,
yeah.
Jim.
the Veterans
Yeah.
Day involved with that.
Historical Society?
Yeah.
Can a light eye ask, what is a QR code? Is this something you scan with your phone?
Yes.
You
and
do, and it pops up
information.
with a website and you get all the information.
I'm not the only one,
Talk to
Jack.
you. Yeah.
I kind of guessed, but I wanted to be sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great idea, Bill, thank you. Ernie?
Just, I think it was either Conservation or Board of Health I was watching when you were in front of them. And I know they said they sent some people down there with breathing apparatus and whatever to check around and make sure there was no radiation.
there's no radiation, yes,
Right,
absolutely.
okay, so as long as we brought this out, I
Right,
don't want
yeah.
people panicking out
Right.
there, that it's been inspected in, but I did hear one thing I thought was interesting, was there's 6 or 7 feet of water in them now. Is there any,
Fish?
no, alligators, actually, I was thinking. Is there any plan to pump the water out and actually fill
I think
these
it's
things?
groundwater that infiltrates, but there was some talk from a structural engineer to look at that issue, and that's one of the things the Board of Health wants us to look at on an annual basis, to note any
So
changes.
right now, there's no plan on filling them, even if you leave the top on, no? Okay, I mean, somebody obviously inspected it. Okay. I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Well, Bill asked my question about the historical aspect, so I think I'm okay. This is not really a public hearing, right? But,
Is it, no.
no, but I think if there is anyone in the audience that wanted to ask a question, we could entertain them. Okay, there is no one, okay. Then I think we're ready.
Ready for?
Motion. Motion second.
I am ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the request for a minor engineering change for property located at 147 South Bedford Street, to revise the entrance drive and to avoid the existing underground bunker system parking lot restriping with a loss of 30 spaces and additional site utility and other improvements as reflected on the red line plan entitled ICBM Building, 5 Northeastern University, Burlington Campus, 147 South Bedford Street, Mass. 10803, prepared by EYP Architecture and Engineering dated April 27, 2018, consisting of 17 sheets, subject to the following revisions, terms, and conditions as
Those are,
As
those need to be
amended.
updated
Yeah, that's as amended.
to 52919.
As amended,
As amended, yeah.
as amended.
yes.
Second.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have 7-0.
Thank you for your time, and
Thank you,
thank you for
gentlemen.
the staff working with us.
Thank you.
Any news?
No news yet. I'm going to become a grandfather hopefully tonight.
Congratulations.
But that's why I was saying, I'm watching.
Oh, I thought you were watching the hockey game. That's much more exciting.
It's scary.
Nah, nothing to it, Bob. Just by presence.
You already
right.
endured the pain for the past 20-something
I
years.
didn't even break into a
Okay, we
sweat.
are moving on to matters of appointment. I need a motion on items 7A and B.
Motion to take items 7A and 7B out of order and together for discussion purposes, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 7-0.
What did I
Item
just vote on?
7A is a public hearing, application
Joe,
for
what did I
approval of a
just vote on?
special permit pursuant to section 4.3.2.6, outdoor storage of supplies and equipment incidental to permitted uses, subject to requirements for location, lighting, screening, fencing, cover, and safety precautions of the zoning bylaws, 376 Cambridge Street. The Granite Place Incorporated is the applicant. Item 7B is a discussion, application for approval of a minor engineering change, 376 Cambridge Street. 376 Cambridge Street LLC is the applicant. Okay. We're going to handle this item a little differently than we normally do. I'd like to start with a brief
Thank you.
summary from staff about where things currently stand, or if you prefer, I can start. Okay.
That's fine. So as I know many of the abutters who have been coming to meetings have this has been advertised, the special permit has been advertised for quite some time. We needed a minor engineering change along with the special permit to show where the storage of outdoor supplies were going to be placed. That took a little bit, that took a little longer. So as this was advertised for a couple meetings ago, we had having discussions with the applicant to try to figure out, to understand the use a little bit better, understand the nature of the use, how they're using the site, and just try to figure out how it aligns with the zoning bylaw as well as kind of other items of review that we want to look at as they pertain to the neighborhood. In the meantime, there have been some complaints since 2017 from the neighborhood. In the front of your book, Frank DePietro did put together some responses to what, if at the back is attached as the violation notice from the building inspector, the inspector of buildings in the building department. What I had suggested and recommended to the chairman and suggest to the rest of you tonight, that we listen to kind of the neighborhood concerns. If you want to know a little bit more about kind of the nature and operations of the site, the applicant, but we were not prepared this evening and don't have a decision drafted because we really want to make sure we listen and incorporate the understanding of the operations of the business, but also the effects on the neighborhood and trying to figure out that. So tonight's very much a listening session to better understand the neighborhood and the use.
Okay, thank you. Unless there are objections from my board members, I would like to ask a few introductory questions and make a few introductory comments, and then I'm going to ask residents and abutters to weigh in. So what we have here that we're looking at besides your letter is a cease and desist order that's dated April 2019. I'm assuming that you have a copy of this? Yes. And is this the second or third notice that you've received? It says final notice, so I'm pretty sure there were others.
Third, I don't remember. I think.
You don't remember.
I think
Do
it
you
was
know when the
third.
first one was?
When was it?
Yes.
No, I don't remember.
Okay. I've been given to understand it was December 2018. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah?
Okay. All right, so you have a cease and desist order. This is, as far as I know, the third notice that you've received. Are you still operating that business?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and you understand that you're in violation of our laws when you do that, correct?
I didn't know that I was, but I'm
But
working.
you have a
on-
cease and desist order,
Yeah, but
and you
I,
have not complied with it.
okay,
Okay. So your business currently is operating in violation of our local bylaws, and in doing so, you are causing pretty severe problems for both your neighbors and for the environment. So I strongly suggest that you cease and desist, as you are required to by this notice. And if you fail to do so, I fully expect that the town will pursue legal action against you, and I would support that action. I think the planning board would probably support that action, as would our staff. So what I want to do now is hear from your neighbors about how this has impacted them. So I would invite anyone who would like to speak to please come forward to the microphone. And when you do, please give us your name and address.
Would you like to sit down? Sure, yeah. There you go.
So you do have to pull it very close. They don't work from far away.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
My name is Kelly Cologne. I reside at 5 Van Norden Road. I'm directly abutting the property here in question. My husband and I bought the property approximately 4 years ago, and it was we knew there was commercial real estate there, but it was really very small. A little bit of storage outside really wasn't very impactful. Over the last 4 years, the operation has grown tremendously. In the fall, approximately late summer, early fall of last year, we noticed probably somewhere between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. That there was a pretty substantial dumpster, and they were coming to remove the dumpster. This is problematic. I have 4 children in the home, and 3 a.m. For the 4-year-olds who needs to get up for school at 8 a.m. is not exactly a fun thing to have happen. So that was the first real issue that we saw. Going forward, we noticed that their operation continued to grow, and there was more material outside. As a direct abutter, our driveway really abuts right next to it. We noticed an increase in trash that was coming down into our driveway. The area, we have a small hill between the property. Lots of just different debris, trash, granite, things of that nature were thrown over onto our property, so that obviously became problematic. Additionally to that, over the winter and sort of into the fall, we noticed that coming down our road and along our side of the street, they had cleared an area and were using forklifts to remove granite from behind the cleaning company. And I'm not sure why or what the purpose was, but.
Through your street?
Yeah, so if you, hold on. Is that-
Okay.
That's an aerial photo. I mean, I'm Frank DePietro. This is the aerial photo. This is the project site right here. There's my cleaners, Van Norden is right here.
Could you point out your home?
This
Is that
is
your
my home
home?
right here.
Thank you.
If you could use the microphone, just so people on TV can hear, all your neighbors.
Sorry.
It'll come out, if you want to walk with it.
Take it out?
Yeah, you could, if you, yeah.
Good?
No, I just wanted to make sure it was
Okay.
on. Go ahead.
So this is my property here, and the area that I'm talking about, they had cleared an area between 2 trees, put down what looks like some gravel, and they were using a forklift to remove the granite that they have stored back here. And instead of pulling it through this area, they've now started to pull it out here. And what I assume, I don't know what they're doing with it. I don't know if they're coming around the corner, I'm not really sure. The issue is there's a school bus stop right here for 5-year-olds. This family, there's a family here that has children that go on the school bus. My daughter goes on the school bus. This is an extremely dangerous corner without any commercial business. pulling a dumpster, pulling material out onto this road is a problem. My middle schooler and high schoolers, they get dropped off at the end of the street, they walk right down here. If you're coming down here, you cannot see coming around. So if there's a forklift coming or whatever the apparatus is that they're taking, you can't see it. So it's a safety issue for us. On the permit that we saw, they were looking to put up fence and lights, which we would actually welcome to put up at the area. Our big question, my husband and I question is, where along this perimeter will the fence be going, number one? What kind of fence will it be? Because it would potentially detract from our property's value. And then the light, I haven't seen a lighting plan. Are they on a timer? Where are they going to be flashing? I'm not really sure. So we haven't seen anything like that. Those are our residual concerns.
Okay, thank you. And we will make note of those so that when the applicant is back before us, we can specify things about lighting and the fence design and the materials as well. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Yes, sir, please come forward. No,
need to hear
please,
you.
we can't hear you from there. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mohammed. I live across the street of the Granite Place. So I actually don't know anything about this, just like what's going on. Something maybe minor changes, as I heard, is fence, some lightning, and some other things. But my concern is actually the noise of the vehicles. If the storage, a lot of vehicles come, and then 8-wheeler, 12-wheelers, or 16-wheelers come in, probably it's going to be a lot of noise. And I got kids at home, and my backyard actually cross to the Granite Place. So otherwise, about the environmental, like any dust issue or anything going on about that. So we got severe dust allergy about myself and my son also. My daughter and my wife is okay, but my son and myself is very severe dust allergies. So if any dust allergies or any dust, anything, or noise, or any lightning is bothering, or it's a busy street. So this is my concern. I'm not sure
Okay,
exactly what's going on. So
thank you. And could you tell me again, what is your address?
391 Cambridge Street.
Okay. Can you point out on that aerial view where you live?
Yeah, so this is.
So is it here?
This is Cambridge Street here.
Yeah.
So this, plus this maybe across the street?
Yeah.
That's yours. Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wanted to speak? Okay. As far as I'm concerned, I don't really see how we can consider a special permit or any other business that you have before us while you are in violation of a cease and desist order from our building department. So I'm advising you to cease and desist and to clear up all of the matters that are outlined in this violation order from the building department. I understand one of the things on this list is that you need to come to us for a special permit. But I want you to resolve all the other issues, all of them, before you come to us.
We did.
I disagree. Do you still have outside storage of granite slabs on your property?
Yeah.
That is in violation of, you're not allowed to do that on that property. And it's listed very clearly in your violation order. And I don't think it serves the public's interest or our interest to go through every piece of this violation order that you've received. It's something that we can do offline. But until you have resolved these issues, we really cannot entertain any of your requests.
I mean, if I could interject. And
Yes.
we originally got involved because of the minor engineering change, and we found out about the special permit filing after the fact. I believe the special permit was originally filed back in November, if I'm not mistaken.
When you say we, you mean BSC Group?
Yes,
Okay,
so
okay.
I got that information from the very good town planning board website, which I check on pending projects. So the minor engineering change was filed before we were aware of that. I think part of the issue was the items that were involved with modifying the site to meet the special permit would have required things that are typically required by the planning board, such as screening, fencing, controlling where the areas of storage would be, and things like that. We also met with the planning staff and the building commission, who have been very helpful along the way, determined what the residential setback would be, so that we would know these areas on the site, under any circumstances, cannot, based on the bylaw, have storage in them. The applicant has moved the material outside of those areas. At this point, they're making progress on this. I don't think they realized it would take this long. I thought that,
I understand that they have improved the situation, but they're still storing slabs of granite outside, and they do not have permission to do that.
I think it's something they would be looking to see through this process, getting the direction so they would address all the items and then be compliant, so
Yes,
it would
but
not impact
you
their
can't
business.
do something that you're not allowed to do and then come and ask us for permission to do it.
We didn't know we couldn't.
I understand that, but you knew as of December when you received the first violation notice. That was 6 months ago. And from what I understand, there's more and more material on site being stored outside.
There is material out there. It has been moved. Again, there's areas that are clear.
It's been moved, but it has not been moved indoors,
That's correct.
which is what's required.
But it's been moved from the zoning of the,
I understand. It's better than it
Setback.
was, but it still doesn't comply.
but that's what you guys want, to move
No.
from the zoning?
No.
Oh, that's my
We want you to
understanding.
comply with our bylaws, and the property that you're on, you are not allowed to have storage of your materials outside. There are other things in this letter as well. It's in your cease and desist order. You look surprised, and I don't know why you are. It says you have 6 violations, and the first one is outside storage of goods and materials.
I know, but after we met with the staff, we understood that we could, that's my understanding. I'm sorry if I understood wrong.
Okay.
But after I met with the staff, I thought that I could, based on the zoning area, that I could leave that's what I understood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did the staff
That's
say
why we
that they
moved.
took it out of the buffer, they'd be all set?
No, of course we didn't. Nothing's all set. It was just, the buffer was absolutely never going to be okay for storage. So it was kind of scaling back to make, as we move into
You
this
were helping them
process.
to make it better, but it still isn't in compliance.
Right,
And the letter that we received, although it's helpful and it's showing progress, and that's wonderful, we just got it yesterday. And actually, I just saw it for the first time today. So I haven't had time to actually confirm what's in this letter. So we really are, there's no way we can take any action on this tonight. So
Okay.
I would suggest that you reread the cease and desist order from the building department, because it tells you to cease and desist until you have complied with all of these conditions, and you
So
have
it mean-
not.
What it means ceased and
It means you
desist?
stop business. You'd stop business. You do
Oh.
not work there until you have complied with this order.
Oh, I didn't.
That's what cease and desist means.
I didn't
It may be
understand.
worthwhile, I'm just going to suggest that we sit down again with the building commissioner and staff to go through those violations very specifically so that everybody understands exactly what's required.
I think that's a good idea.
We left the meeting on May 22nd having an understanding that we're moving ahead. We did not, certainly no one said we could keep the material out there, but we're improving it.
Yeah.
And that was
Right.
the background to that.
And I can't say for sure if you're ever going to be allowed to keep materials outside. That is not something that's allowed by right, and this board may not approve that. It's not really an appropriate site for the type of business that you're doing. Originally, it was a showroom, and it's an appropriate site for a showroom. It's not an appropriate site to be cutting granite, which is loud and dirty, and it has residue. It's not an appropriate site for those uses, and I cannot give you any assurance that you're ever going to get a special permit that will allow you to use the property in that way.
But it's been used that before us.
It was a showroom prior
No,
to you, and
no.
it had very little outside storage. But the fact of the matter is, if someone else was in violation of our bylaws, that does not mean it's okay for you to be in violation of our
No, I
bylaws.
understand. I apologize if we're doing this. I'm just saying that the cutting, everything's done inside, nothing's outside, so there's no dust, there's nothing.
I've been informed that there is impact on the wetlands in the area with dust and debris.
Madam Chairman, I think it might, it might help the audience and the rest of the board if we just spent 5 minutes for the applicant and or the applicant's engineer, just to quickly talk about the space that was and the space that is in this proposal.
5 minutes, and then I think we really need to move on, because there's no way this is going to be resolved tonight.
Right, just a very basic of what we're looking at here, because I know that, we've shared a lot of information, and there's information on our webpage, but.
Right, and then I do want to give other board members a chance, if they feel compelled to ask questions tonight, with the understanding that we're not going to be voting on anything tonight.
Right, maybe quick.
Sure.
Thank you.
So again, you know where the site is, so I'm going to throw away this board for the time being. Just to orientate folks, Cambridge Street, Van Norden Drive. Initially, my understanding was that the Granite Place had a portion of the site back in 2013 here. This was a Mother Thrift that just went out last year. This was another use, a dog grooming. Over time, they acquired this piece, so they now had about 2/3 of the building. This last year, they acquired this piece. This was a showroom area. They had a sort of performance cutting of the granite inside the building in this area. There are doors here. They are obviously storing granite. We've got plenty of proof of that. The idea here would be to, when they take this over, there'll be some internal storage of granite, and they will keep the facility. We're proposing to put up a 6-foot-high solid fence around the entire perimeter of the parking area, and then have a dumpster that would be enclosed, as well as set up. They've had some issues in the past, as people noted, with the dumpster people who did not go at the right time. They've been fired. They've got new dumpster controls on there. There'd be a gate here as well. We are improving the parking to make that handicap accessible and up to current standards.
Can you?
2.5 minutes.
Can
Any
you
questions?
describe a little bit more about the fabrication process?
Sure. My understanding, and I'm not a granite person, so my understanding is, again, it's in here, they take a piece of granite that's stored outside, bring it into the building with a forklift. That certainly causes noises. They limit that. There is an error in my letter, Jack pointed out. It's not 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So, another example of my imperfection. Anyway, they bring it in here, they do all the cutting inside the building. They would be taking steps to maintain all the dust and anything else that's in the building in the future.
What kind of, is it completely enclosed during cutting? And how do you handle the dust and noise?
My understanding, talking to the folks, is that it is enclosed in the building, but in the summertime, the doors have been open. So that is an issue for, I would agree, with noise and potentially dust. So that would have to be modified to make that area compliant. And that's something we need to talk about and address as far as their operation goes.
Madam Chairman, if I may ask one more question. What about the washing of equipment?
There is, my understanding, cutting of the granite, there's a water that cools off the saws and stuff, and that waste water, which is the granite chips and stuff, has been disposed of not in a good way. That has to be modified and kept inside and disposed of in a different way.
And it probably needs to
When
be
you say
cleaned up
not in
where
a
it
good
is
way, what can,
My
run
understanding,
into the wetlands and into the
they've been
street,
basically put in the parking lot, and the water runs off. That's
Thank you.
into the
flow.
wetlands and
That
into
is
the
something
neighboring
that's
I
street.
agree with you, that's not a
Yes.
good way, yes.
That also has to be cleaned up. You can't just stop doing it. You have to
Yes.
clean up the wetlands and the street where it's flowed.
They have done work along the edge of the street. It's much better than it was based on the pictures I've seen. But again, certainly work would be done. A fence would help limit that, so we cut off that access.
Well, I would suggest you probably can't clean off that equipment outside, and you need to find
Right.
some way to deal with the runoff. Is this something that the Conservation Commission needs to look at because there are wetlands nearby?
If they have outside, if they have any additional construction or drainage that, I mean, if we continue this discussion, we'd be talking about drainage.
Okay.
so,
I
yes.
know we're probably getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I
We
just wanted
tend
to
get
put on
this-
the record
Yes.
what their operation was.
Thank you. Okay. Do my board members, fellow board members have any questions? Okay, thank you.
I do.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, what is the zoning for this property?
General
It's
business.
general business.
General business. And I noticed that it abuts a property in Billerica. Is that a residential property? Do they get noticed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That was one of the reasons for delay,
Yeah, no,
that-
all right.
Okay, thank you.
that they have been noticed.
Does anyone else have any questions before we?
Sure.
Yes.
Can you tell me how long you've been there?
Since 2013.
2013. And you said there was a granite place similar to yours before that.
Yes.
Nearly the same size of
How,
operation.
how long had they been there, do you know?
2007 or 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we should continue this to the next meeting. And in between, I think you're right, we should schedule a meeting with people from building, from planning, so that we can iron out some of these problems.
Yes.
Thank you.
And one other comment, just
Yes.
in the meantime, I feel like at least in the meantime, somebody needs to communicate with the neighbors and see what's going to make them, if you're going to continue through that process, and I'm not saying you should because it's a cease and desist, but
Right.
the point is somebody's got to communicate with the neighbors and make sure that they're happy with what's going on here.
I think
what's
we
gonna
should
go on in the
communicate with the
future.
neighbors and ask them what would make them happy in the future. For now, you need to cease and desist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
our next meeting is on June 20th, but I'm just wondering if they're looking for some type of a subcommittee meeting and other things, would you be ready by June 20th?
That would be tough to do. I think if we're trying to get to talk with the folks in
Right.
the town, subcommittee, and the neighbors in 2 weeks, that may not be.
I think you're right. Perhaps we should make this the July meeting.
And you should consider appointing a subcommittee if that's the
We should
case.
definitely have a subcommittee. Okay, so the July meeting is July, what is the date?
15th, is it?
17, 18?
17th? Okay.
18th.
18th. Thank you. July 18th. And I am happy to hear from anyone who wants to be on the subcommittee. I personally would like to be on that subcommittee.
Sure.
Anyone else? Ernie?
I'll do it.
Okay, Paul, thank you. So Ernie, Paul, and myself, but of course, everyone is welcome. And we will be posting these meetings on the town calendar. If you want to be informed of them, if you live in the neighborhood, please make sure that we have your name and email address or phone number before you go, so we can inform you of those meetings. You are also welcome to attend all meetings. Thank you.
And then, not trying to get into any privacy or anything like that, but if we would have information on who the neighbors who have complained, or we have the information from our advertising, we can certainly do that, but would particularly want to reach out to those folks who have already made.
And what I will say to the neighbors who are here and anyone who's watching is if they would agree to be contacted, please let our staff know, and we will share your contact information. We would not share it otherwise.
And email us at planning@burlington.org to
Yes.
give us your name if you're
Madam
interested.
Chair, to that point, although we've only had 2 neighbors here talking, I'm wondering how many have actually contacted the planning board, the staff, other than the 2 that we have. Have neighbors contacted you folks?
Yes, we
You
have
know approximately how many?
at least 3 additional households from who's
In
here
addition to
tonight.
what's there, okay.
Yeah, the woman across the street who has been concerned about glare from the lights being on all night, and then the woman directly across Van Norden and her family has reached out.
Okay, thank you.
And I feel like there was one more, but I don't remember where they live.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right.
Thank you.
So I'm looking for a motion.
To continue this matter, the planning board meeting of
July
July
18th.
July 18th, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 7-0.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you'll be in contact with staff so we can arrange that meeting.
We do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. moving on, this item 7C is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 6.1.1.1, alteration of a non-conforming use of the zoning bylaws, 336 Cambridge Street. Lynn Shui is the applicant, and I'm sorry if I am butchering your name. She is not here. Is there anyone here on this? Oh, thank you, Tom. I didn't see you over there.
Email address.
My client was not able to
Email,
make it
email.
tonight, so I'll pass along your.
How do I pronounce her name correctly?
I think it's Shay.
Shay? Okay, thank you.
I do it differently each time myself, so I'm
Okay.
not an expert. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thomas Murphy representing the applicant. This matter's been before the board for a little bit. Last time we were in, the two pieces that were yet to be put in place were the Board of Health comments and vote, which took place at their last meeting. And I've seen their comments, and we've agreed to all of the conditions that they have placed via their vote. So that part of it's all set.
Thank you.
And the only other piece was, there was some ongoing discussions about sidewalks and vertical granite curbing, and my client has seen the light and has agreed that that's probably the best thing for all parties. So we've agreed to the poured concrete sidewalk along the extent of the frontage and vertical granite curbing as well. Just to remind anybody who might be listening, this is the piece of property on Cambridge Street, 336. It's the old Dr. Christmas Dental Office. It's a 1815 structure. My client purchased it. It's been determined to be a non-conforming grandfathered use. There are 3 residential units in there and 1 commercial unit. It had been a dentist's office, and then it's been a real estate office and a few other things over the years. So my client purchased this about a year ago. She plans to do some extensive rehabbing of the house and the site, and there's going to be a small addition put on to the back to give the residential units a little bit more room than they currently have. I will note that my client has modified her original submission a bit and asked to put a couple of decks off the second floor residential units. This is the footprint of the house. This gray shaded area is essentially an enclosed stairway up to the second floor. It's just the second means of egress, but they enclosed it. That's going right here. It created 2 little squares of vacant land there. So she has proposed roughly an 8.5 foot by 8.5 foot square deck access out of the 2 units on the second floor, just to give a little outdoor space.
And what will be under that, patio or grass?
Under this one, it's the porch to go into the exterior, the outside entrance here. This one is going to be like a deck patio area. So that's the only change to the plan that has been put forward. As I said, I think pretty much discussed the project itself over the past few meetings. Happy to fill in any information that you might need or answer any questions, but again, it's a special permit, and I would submit that this, as the plan as is, it's going to certainly not make the area any worse of a nonconformance than it currently is. I suggest it's a pretty good improvement. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, thank you. Kristen, would you like to?
Sure.
weigh in?
So we began this without a sidewalk, without any drainage, with a couple different plans for the parking lot, and with less vegetation. So I think we've come a long way from the beginning of the site and come a long way from what we see now with the sea of pavement in the front. So it's always good to preserve the historic building. There is an addition in the back, but really the front of it will stay as it looks, as it did with this historical look to it. The front of the site, they'll have a walkway. Is the walkway paved coming in? It looks paved in the plan.
It's actually going to be brick.
Brick. So brick walkway coming in. They've agreed to the cement, 5-foot cement sidewalk with the vertical granite along the front, similar to the neighbors who are also putting in the sidewalk. So you'll have a continuous sidewalk from here all the way to Wilmington Road, which is fantastic for the area. They're adding vegetation along the front, along the parking lot, but also additional vegetation as they've discussed specifically with the neighboring property to the north. We also recommend that they just have the radius coming into the site just be vertical granite. I mean, you'll have the sidewalk dipping down, but just coming in. The rest of the parking lot will be just a bituminous. We mentioned in the conditions that if they did want to do like a monolithic pour cement concrete for the walkways, that we would encourage that, as well as potentially bringing in some of the paver detail, not all pavers, but just a little paver detail to be a nicer feature, to integrate that cement, the brick walkway into the kind of the side entrance of the site. So we would recommend that. And otherwise, I think the site's come a long way. The drainage in the back has been added. The Board of Health approved the drainage, which is one of the reasons we had to continue at the last meeting. And we, at this point, do believe that it's come a long way and not substantially more Dutch, and actually a lot better to the neighborhood than what is existing there.
Okay, thank you. Ernie, would you like to start us off?
Sure.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, Ernie.
Go ahead.
I went too quickly. We do have a comment from one
It's
of
just
the
a
other boards.
conservation, but it's a new comment, but it basically reiterates and then, so it just says see comment below. It probably is the same one, but they've restated. Apparently, land disturbance, apparently down here it said if it does. It says apparently land disturbance will exceed 10,000 square feet, so an erosion and sediment control permit will be needed.
You're aware?
Yeah, we're aware of that. It's going to be close, actually. The parking lot, as planned, is about, I think, about 4,000 square feet. They're tearing up the pavement along the front of it, so that's going to add another 3,000 or 4,000. So it's going to be borderline, but they are aware that they'll have to do that.
Thank you. Ernie, I apologize. Please go ahead.
No problem, thank you. You did speak, if I recall, with the Historical Commission, correct?
Yes, I met with them early on in the process.
Okay. Right, and they're happy, satisfied? that
Obviously,
you-
they were thrilled that the house was being saved.
It looks like an improvement to the property to me. As a trade-off, there's a little bit more square footage. I really don't see a problem. I'm all set, thank you.
And no comments, thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm good. The only other thing was, and then Kristen had mentioned that, Tom, and it wasn't talked about before, but I know you guys agreed to do the brick going to the front. Maybe can incorporate some of that brick into the, do banding on the other walkway with that, the concrete walkway, maybe?
Fronts, like you do in the town
Yeah,
center?
like you have the brick going in, and then it's concrete for the rest of the walkways.
Right.
Going toward the
Maybe you
back
can-
of the house and the parking lot is what we're talking about. Not necessarily in the
Just kind of putting a collar on it?
Yeah, like it just banding on this,
Yeah.
to outline it, so that it kind of ties the brick in with the concrete, If that's possible, that would be nice.
The walkways,
Interior.
interior walkways?
Interior, yeah.
Okay.
I think the exterior, the exterior is, it's not in the downtown, so the banding there wouldn't.
But you want a similar look, though, for the interior that you typically ask for in
In the town center.
town
Yeah, I
center?
mean,
He's talking
But-
about.
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
I got you. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That shouldn't be a
Talk
problem.
about it.
Thank you. Was that
Yep.
Paul?
No, I just, in conversation, I heard from some of the people from the Historical Commission, and they're very pleased. And I just want to say to the staff, this little thing down in the corner, I don't know if it's me, but I don't think including that helps very much. This little thing down here.
The
postage
logo.
stamp.
I know, I didn't make the plan.
It's
I
tiny.
just- I don't know.
It's here just to
Thank you.
it's there just to remind you that you're old and you can't.
Oh, I don't need any more.
I mean, me too, I can't read it either. That's what- Remind us that we're old, I should say.
Jack?
There's a detention system in the back. Is that addressed in the conditions?
Yes.
Is that an open or a closed system?
That's in the Board of Health decision, I believe. It's
Board of Health has covered
it's
it.
an open, it's a basin with stone.
Okay, so the Board of Health has addressed it, and we've incorporated their conditions.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I
Thank
have
you.
no, that's all.
Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to speak about this matter? No? Okay, well, I'm going to weigh in. I'm thrilled that this is happening. I think it's going to look so much better than it did. I'm so happy that the house is being preserved. I commend your client for agreeing to all the things we've asked for, and I think it's going to be a beautiful site.
She's looking forward to get started, because you're right, it's going to look very nice.
It is.
Once it's done.
Okay, thank you.
It's nice to save an old house every now and then.
It is, it is. Okay,
So you're looking for a motion to close the public
I
hearing on
am.
this matter?
yes, please.
I so move to close public hearing in this matter.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 6-0.
Motion to approve the request of Lin Y Zhu for a special permit pursuant to Section 6.1.1.1, alteration of a nonconforming use to allow for the expansion of an existing residential and commercial building at 336 Cambridge Street, subject to the terms and conditions contained in Exhibit A attached. Are there any changes to what's printed? As printed?
As per-
As printed.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. We are at item 7D. May I have a motion,
Motion to
please?
take items 7D, 7E, 7F, and 7G together for discussion purposes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. All right. Item 7D is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.7.1, light manufacturing of processing plants, prototype manufacturing of the zoning bylaws, 3 Van de Graaff Drive, American Landmark LLC is the applicant. Item 7E is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.7.1, laboratories engaged in research, experimental and testing activities, including but not limited to the fields of chemistry, electronics, engineering, geology, non-biologic medicine, and physics of the zoning bylaws. 3 Van de Graaff Drive, American Landmark is the applicant. Item 7F is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.7.4.1, life science laboratories engaged in research, prototype manufacture, experimental and testing activities, including but not limited to the fields of pharmaceuticals, biomedical technologies and engineering, life system technologies, environmental and biomedical devices, subject to the regulations of the Board of Health. See additional regulations in Article 10, Section 10.5.0. Biosafety Level 4 laboratories as defined by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are prohibited in Burlington of the zoning bylaws. 3 Van de Graaff Drive, American Landmark is the applicant. And lastly, item 7G is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.7.4.2, life science laboratories engaged in the manufacture of life science technologies and medicines for commercial production to the market, including but not limited to the fields of pharmaceuticals, biomedical technologies and engineering, life systems technologies, environmental, biomedical devices, subject to the regulations of the Board of Health. See additional regulations in Article 10, Section 10.5.0. And again, biosafety level 4 is prohibited. And 3 Van de Graaff Drive, American Landmark is the applicant. Oh, that was a mouthful.
I know. Good evening, Madam Chair. For the record, Robert Buckley, Reman Bronstein. I'm here this evening. There are no external modifications being proposed to the building. What we're trying to do here is, if you're familiar with the building, this is the view from Van de Graaff Drive, which is a 1-story, 1.5-story building. This is one of the only buildings in town that has the high floor-to-ceiling structure that is conducive to biotech. But what we're going to focus on initially is the other side, the part that overhangs or fronts on 128, which is 4 stories. There's going to be a significant amount of space that will become available in the building in short order, primarily on the entire 4th floor and perhaps parts of some additional floors. And in order to go to the marketplace in terms of the broader approach, if those who attended the forum that was held before the adoption of the Biotech bylaw amendments, your consultants or the panelists indicated that it's best to be in a position where it's, I would say, totally permitted, because you're gonna have to review whoever comes in, and the Board of Health's gonna have to review whoever comes in. But to go to the marketplace and say the town has weighed in on biotech and would view this as an appropriate location for biotech or biofarm, enhances the marketability of the project, of the property. So basically, it's a special permit that allows the use. It's subject to the Board of Health regulations and review. I don't think we'd want to do anything more than level 1 or level 2, which is basic research. But if you're trying to go to the marketplace and attract tenants in a rather competitive market, particularly in biotech, to make them migrate north out of perhaps Cambridge, it enhances the prospects. The reality is, if they were to come in and make any changes, we're going to be back before you, but it allows us to go to the marketplace. No exterior changes, nothing being proposed.
Thank you. Kristen?
Sure. So this is our first application under the new bylaw. But we did, if you recall, process a laboratories engaged in research and biotechnology, written a little bit differently for 4 Burlington Woods, maybe 6 months ago. For the same, and that was our first kind of blanket life science lab use permit. So how we've written it, put the conditions together, that this permit in no way negates the responsibility of the applicant to go through the Board of Health full process when the tenant is identified. This lays out kind of some of the basic laboratory conditions that we have in town. But what we also did in here is make sure that if certain things are part of the business, that they do come back specifically to amend the permit. And those include biosafety level 3, if that's something, it has to come back here. If there's additional hazardous material storage, generation, or discharge, it has to come back here. If there's additional square footage of lab use not existing as of what we're discussing tonight, they have to come back here. And if delivery and loading activities are in excess of that occur today as a general office use, significantly in excess of that, or actually I just have in excess of that, need to come back here. And then also outlines, of course, the Board of Health process they need to go through, and highlights the additional regulations for biotech in Article 10.5. Let's see. So what you have here, again, it is, I think, the applicant's trying to bait the hook. Very, very likely that hook's going to have to come back in for an amendment to the special permit, but at least we can really start attracting businesses as they migrate out of Kendall Square. And I will tell a little bit of a story that I was at the Middlesex 3 annual meeting a couple weeks ago, and meeting with a property owner, or another property owner there was in town, and said, "Oh, I have some interest in my building from this company that's located elsewhere." And he said, "Oh, and by the way, this person also sits on the board of directors for the Mass Biotech Council." And they said, "Oh, Burlington? Burlington doesn't like life science." I said, "What?" So I tell the story only in the sense of the myth is still not fully dispelled, even through all the efforts we're doing. So I think efforts like this to at least bait the hook and get to the specifics to reel some of this in is good.
I think that's appropriate. All you're doing is baiting the hook. You're trying to generate, and if you don't think there's tremendous competition out there, it's unbelievable. And it used to be, and I know many of the board members here probably said it, we're Burlington. They want to come here. The reality today is they'll go where they can see where they can get in quickly, put the stake in the ground and grow. And unfortunately, there's no long-term analysis. And what we're trying to do here is create some buzz, because hopefully the media will pick up on this and say Burlington is entertaining this. That forum that was put on before the town meeting vote was the best thing I've seen in Burlington. It really was good. One, to show what talent you have in town, and number two, to show for the citizens how the market works, which I think is critical. But this is just to bait the hook and bring them back, so.
Okay,
And
thank
delete
you.
that from the tape, so when we go to market, they don't see that.
Thank you. Jack, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'm looking, how many square feet are we talking to?
About 105,000 maximum.
That's a total building?
The building is about 300,000.
Okay, so you're only asking for 105
Yeah,
of
the
them.
top floor of the tower section.
Okay.
And there's a portion of some other floors. And the reason it works so well, Jack, is because the top floor would be attractive to a biotech user because of rooftop mechanicals and direct connection.
Is that somewhere in the decision, the 105,000 square feet?
So
There is a blank in the decision that we needed to fill in that's at 105,000
Okay, that's why I couldn't find it. All right.
Do not worry, it will be in there.
All
We
right.
just weren't exactly sure what the
It was
fourth.
in the application. So.
We had fourth and part of third floor, but anyway,
Okay.
it's in there now.
Nope, I think that that's the purpose of what we did there a couple of months ago. I'm happy to see it.
Okay. Paul?
I expect that other towns, when people say biotech, they say, oh, Burlington's not biotech, that's high-tech. And so I expect that, that's out there too, because as you said, it is very competitive. No, if we get one or two in, it'll out. No, I have no comments on it.
Okay,
Other
thank
than
you,
I
Paul.
approve.
Joe?
May I read the comments?
Please.
Yeah, so, Board of Selectmen, there is no comment. Inspector Buildings, no objection. DPW Engineering, no objection. Police Department, there is no comment. Fire Department, it is approval with the following modifications. Hazard communication system typical of NFPA 704 shall be used for the benefit of first responders.
Standard.
Yeah,
And
definitely
then
was-
Board of Health comments. Board of Health staff offer the following comments on the above referenced proposal. Any future tenant engaging in biotechnology or the manipulation of individual atoms or molecules must contact the Board of Health for approval and must adhere to conditions such as outlined by the Board of Health. The tenant must be required to appear before the Board of Health at a regularly scheduled meeting. The Board of Health may require that the tenant provide funds for the independent third-party health and safety review, including but not limited to proposed on-site use of agents, processes, and safety protocol. Number two, any future tenant using, storing, or generating oils, hazardous materials, or hazardous biological materials shall complete a hazardous materials registration form for submittal to the Board of Health, in which all hazardous materials used and wastes generated on-site would be listed and the storage locations indicated on a plan of the building. This form will be required of each tenant who will use, store, or generate hazardous materials. And then thirdly and lastly, any proposed food establishment must undergo a plan review. A plan review application shall be submitted to and approved by the Board of Health prior to construction. That's the Board of Health, which I'm sure you already have, so Conservation has no comment. I'm sorry, no objections. And I personally think it's a great idea. I think this is what we've talked about, what we've worked for, and I think it's good to show them that we're interested in bringing that type of thing to Burlington, so.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Mike?
No questions, just a comment. I'm very excited to see this moving forward, and hopefully I wish you well, and hope to see you back here soon with a big fish on the line. And this is the start of something great for Burlington, maybe a whole new fishing derby for us to participate in.
Surprisingly, there is a lot of buzz going on out there that when this was passed by town meeting, I had a number of clients who actually said, because the history was, everyone thought Burlington was not receptive to this use, based upon some history, and the comment was really, and there was some excitement, so.
Very exciting. Can't wait to see how it turns out. Hopefully it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm guessing the history might have been kind of not putting the biotech center in the landlocked forest. Is that accurate?
No, that had nothing to do with it, no.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No other comments.
Thank you. Ernie?
I'm all set. I just had one curiosity question, if I may. I noticed the submission, I think, is Landmark 2 is the, is it still involved Bruce? No?
Bruce
Okay,
Silverman?
Thank you.
Could I make a suggestion through the chair?
Yes?
You know, and I know Kristen did it, we toured the building. You know, a lot of communities, through their boards, go and visit some of the buildings. I think this was the first time you had seen the inside. This building is spectacular when you get inside of it, with the courtyard and and the beauty of that is the amenities that people are looking for in these types of facilities. When they get in there and they see that, I think it's gonna be a home run. But I know a lot of communities try to go out, or their boards go out and take a tour of the building. You have to be concerned with the open meeting law and all that, but it's interesting to see what's going on in town.
It was one of the first ones, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
I'd say we do that.
I think we would be
A
very
Wednesday
open to
night for
doing
the
that.
folks there, they
Yes.
can schedule
We
that.
could, and if it's this building or any building we're involved, we can coordinate that, but if you saw, you can actually see it in the middle there. There's
The
a
courtyard.
courtyard that's almost an acre or half an acre that is really incredible. It's right off of the cafeteria. And it's got walkways that are, when you're there, you say, this is absolutely spectacular.
Well, I think you should contact our staff to arrange something.
I will do so.
Okay, thank you.
And another thing it did, it cleaned up the that was the high
That's right.
voltage thing.
That's right.
Remember, Jack?
I voted yes.
That's right.
I do not have any questions. I also am excited to see who lands there. But before we move on, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Seeing no one, I think we can move on.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to close the public hearing on this matter.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 7-0. Take this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the request of American Landmark 3 LLC for a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.7.1, light manufacturing or process plants, prototype manufacturing, Section 4.2.7.4, laboratories engaged in research, experimental, and testing activities, Section 4.2.7.4.1, life science laboratories engaged in research, prototype manufacturer, experimental and testing activities, and Section 4.2.7.4.2, life science laboratories engaged in the manufacture of life science technologies and medicines for the commercial production to the market, of the zoning bylaw at 3 Vandegraff Drive, subject to the terms and conditions contained in Exhibit B attached.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And feel free to coordinate with the staff, and I'll make that happen.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And we will
Good
look
luck.
forward to hearing about your new grandchild.
Good luck with that, too.
Well, while we were talking, I hate to say this. I said, everything okay? Yep, still looking good.
Excellent.
Well,
They're talking about you? They watching you on?
all right, thank you. Moving on to items 7 and 8. May I have a motion to take these items together for discussion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 7-0. Item 7H is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.6.20.1, massage therapy of the zoning bylaws, 1 Garfield Circle. Anam Kara Therapeutic Massage is the applicant. And item 7I is a public hearing, application for approval of a site plan, 1 Garfield Circle. 1 Garfield Circle Realty Trust is the applicant. Welcome, and if you could please state your name and just your names for the record. Thank you.
I'm Casey Thompson.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
No, Casey Thompson.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Behrens, and I'm the owner of 1 Garfield Circle.
And so are you with the?
Yes, Anam Kara Therapeutic Massage.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do you want to quickly introduce us to your company?
Okay. Well, I've got a private practice in Lexington right now. I've been wanting to expand into a wellness center for a while now. I recently just hired my first employee back in December and found Mark's property, and I'm hoping to expand into that area, that space. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can you talk a little bit more about just the space itself, where it's, your building's kind of upper level, lower level? Just kind of talk a little bit about that and how many spaces you think you'll need in your typical day?
Like parking spaces, or you mean like
Park-
the actual?
Well, the tenant space, where it is, how you access it, and then parking spaces, and then just what are your hours
Okay.
and appointments?
It's the first floor, the ground level. The square footage is about 1,000. 1,200 square feet. Parking spaces are about 5. Yep. Business hours, it should be around 10 to 8 weekdays, and then 10 to 6 on the weekends is the plan. Oh, sure.
I don't think that one's on. That one's really quiet.
It might not be you, it might be
Oh.
oh wait, try again.
Hello?
Oh, there, that
Oh,
worked.
all right.
Okay.
My plan is to open a wellness center. I plan to have 3 treatment rooms that will be for therapeutic massage, and then 2 infrared saunas. Expanding from what I'm doing now is just therapeutic massage, and I want to offer more to the community. So that's the plan.
How long have you been in business?
I've been in business for myself a little over 2 years. I've been a massage therapist for 13 years.
Thank you. Kristen, did you have any comments?
Sure. So you have a special permit in front of you for this use, for massage therapy. The site plan is in front of you because if you apply for a special permit for a site that does not have a site plan, we need to put a site plan on file or do a site plan waiver. But, so that's why you have a site plan. The site plan is not actually looking to modify the site, it's looking to put the plan on file of the existing conditions that are on the site itself. We do have conditions in the permit as to making sure that, sorry, I'm really stuffed up right now, but all the parking spaces are striped and all the handicapped spaces are properly marked. And the question I was asking about where the tenants were accessed, I know the lower level, I would say this is the top level, and then there's a access from Garfield below. There had been more kind of construction type of business. Is that still there? I just wanted to make sure that, any heavier equipment was separated from any patrons coming into this type of use. But overall, Garfield and Adams Street and all of these streets we've seen a big turnover from manufacturing and fabrication to these either dance or tutoring or, performance arts. So, I would say it's a positive turnover in the neighborhood. Not that manufacturing's great, but to have some of these more culturally enriching uses is also good. So we have a special permit that's typical of massage therapy put together and a few things for the site, and would recommend favorably on the use here.
Okay, thank you. Joe, do you have comments?
Sure.
From
Yep.
departments? Thank you.
So Board of Selectmen, there is no comment. Inspector Buildings. Our office is in receipt of the proposed site plan approval for 1 Garfield Circle and offer the following. 1, the site plan show / identify the number of parking spaces on the upper and lower lots. 2, site plan to show handicap parking in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Architectural Barriers Board regulation 521 CMR. 3, suggest a do not enter sign at the lower level parking area off of Garfield Circle at the southwest curb cut. 4, parking spaces provided for office use, Article 7, Section 7.2.5.11, should tenants of the other office use, i.e. other than the office use, i.e. proposed massage therapy or medical, doctor's office, educational, after-school programs proposed to locate here, then more parking spaces will be required. 5, otherwise, we have no objections. Should you have any questions, needs assistance, contact us. Engineering. The engineering, it's basically, that's the, I don't know if you have a copy of that, but that's pretty standard. It talks about the size of the waters and all that, yep. Sewer comments, same thing, it's all standard stuff, so as long as you have that, we're good. Police department has no comments, fire department. Site plan, let's see. Entitled Cara Wellness Center, approval as submitted, and I don't see any comments, so. Board of Health, see comments. Board of Health staff has offered the following comments on a reference proposal. Renovations are subject to the Board of Health Hazardous Building Component Management Plan policy. Proponent/owner shall complete a Board of Health pre-demolition, pre-renovation inspection checklist prior to any interior or exterior renovations of the site. 2, applicant shall contact the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Professional Licensure at www.mass.gov/DPL/boards/MT or 617-727-1747 for massage establishment and massage therapist regulations and licensing requirements. And then they have the 3, which is the, during construction, work, dust, odor, and noise controls plans should be in place. And 4, any changes in plans or operations will be submitted to the environmental engineer to determine whether or not an appearance before the Board of Health is required.
I'm certainly in full agreement with all the comments that you just spoke of. Absolutely. Yes, sure.
Thank you. And Conservation has no comments, I think we're all set with that.
Well, since you have the mic, why don't you start us off?
I hopefully welcome you there, and hopefully have a lot of success.
Thank you very much.
I echo what Kristen had said. I think there's really a lot of really good uses coming down there, you know?
That's what we're trying to do.
It's a really cool area of town now, you know? You have the music thing not too far from you, and then
It's the
you
new
get
Cambridge, I think.
Yeah, that's right. That's great, good for you, yeah.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, and we have some interesting stuff coming in, all of these various educational things. One of them was advertising in the mall recently with a big thing
Oh,
that they
really?
were, send your kids here and there'll be math whizzes and so forth. No, when Garfield Circle is said, all I can think of is vertical granite curving.
Well, the building looks a little different than that now.
I understand.
beautiful now.
No, I have no comments.
Okay. Jack?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Mike?
No comments, Madam Chair. Best of luck.
Thank you.
No comments, thank you, Madam Chair.
All set, thank you.
Okay. I'm assuming that we have our no temporary signs and
Yep.
all that in
No
here?
temporary,
Okay.
all the lighting conditions.
Okay,
Jack
all
says,
right.
why are they so long? You guys have a lot of standards.
I understand. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Okay, I see no one. Well,
You
I
want to
think we're
close
ready
the
for
public
motion.
hearing?
Welcome.
You want to close the public hearing?
Yes, please.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize that was like the okay.
We still have to vote.
1 second.
That's the informal, okay, now.
To close the public hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the request of Anam Cara Massage Therapy for special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.6.20.1 Massage Therapy of the zoning bylaws to permit a massage therapy studio at 1 Garfield Circle, subject to the terms and conditions contained in Exhibit C attached. Were there any amendments or anything?
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0.
Now,
Thank you.
One more site
Wait,
plan.
we have another.
Do you want item I?
one.
Yep.
To close the public hearing on this matter?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's 7-0.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the site plan application of 1 Garfield Circle Realty Trust for property located at 1 Garfield Circle to provide the town with a formalized site plan for the property as reflected on a site plan entitled Existing Office Building, 1 Garfield Circle, Burlington, Mass., prepared by DeSella, Burke, Sala, and Associates, dated April 4th, 2019, consisting of 1 sheet, subject to the following revisions, terms, and conditions, as printed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Now you're done. Welcome, and much luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair?
Yes.
Can I just, for 1 minute, beg the board's indulgence? I found out some information, excuse me, about the microphone use.
Oh.
And if you can hear yourself on the PA system, then they're all set, because they get their feed from the feed to the PA system.
What's that, Ernie? I can't
If
hear.
if you can hear yourself on the.
Thank you, Ernie.
You're all set.
All right, I'll move this closer.
So a little nugget here, the meaning of Anam Cara is soul friend.
Soul friend?
In
Oh,
Gaelic.
okay. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
soul friend?
Soul friend.
Soul friend.
Oh, the name.
Madam Cara,
Page 12
yes.
is the next item.
Page 12.
You want me to elaborate on that?
Yay, right
Sure.
on. Good, go ahead. Very interesting.
Well, it's Gaelic and it means soul friend, and it's a Celtic philosophy that embodies unconditional acceptance. And for me, that's a great foundation for any sort of healing, so that's what I'm bringing to the community.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Madam Chair, make a motion to take items 7J, 7K, and 7L together for discussion purposes.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 7-0. Item 7J is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 12.1.5, PD Special Permit of the zoning bylaws, 21 North Avenue. Viking Detection Corporation is the applicant. Item 7K is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 1.5.1, light manufacturing of processing plants of the Northwest Park Plan Development District by zoning provisions, 21 North Avenue. Viking Detection Corporation is the applicant. And item 7L is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 1.5.2, laboratories engaged in research, experimental, and testing activities, including but not limited to fields of biology, chemistry, electronics, engineering, geology, medicine, and physics, subject to the planning board making findings set forth in Section 8.3.7.4 of the zoning bylaws, subject to the applicable rules and regulations of the Board of Health of the Northwest Park Plan Development District, zoning provisions, 21 North Avenue. Viking Detection Corporation is the applicant. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
you.
For the record, Attorney Mark Vaughn representing the applicant. With me tonight are Peter Rothschild, who is a co-founder of Viking Detection, along with Jim Ryan, who is a Chief Executive Officer of the company. Frank DePietro and Crosby Nordblom as well. Frank with BSC Group and Crosby with the property owner of the Nordblom Company. So very pleased to be before you tonight in connection with this application. Viking Detection is presently headquartered in Newton, Massachusetts, and they are very much excited about the opportunity to relocate their headquarters and their business here to Burlington at the property at 21 North Avenue, which is part of the Northwest Park PDD, which was approved many years ago through the planning board's efforts as well as town meeting. So 21 North Ave is, it's shown on the plan that Frank produced there, but it's building right here. It's about 30,000 square feet in total size. The application that's before you is basically reusing the building as it is. We're not looking to expand the building footprint or add any additions onto the leasable square footage. It's taking the building as it is. So Route 3 would be to the top of the plan, kind of off the plan, just to give you a sense of bearings, with the Middlesex Turnpike being off the map down this way. So
That little blue square, the pool of Lifetime Fitness?
Yes.
Okay, that helps me to know where it is. Thank you.
So Viking Detection is a leader in the development of security imaging and materials identification systems, which are used by safety inspection professionals including governmental agencies. They do a lot of work with the federal government. And what they would like to be able to do is utilize this building for their headquarters, their operations, office, research and development operations, as well as design and whatnot. So I know we did submit a floor plan to the board as part of the application as to how the space would be utilized. And there's, again, no expansion of the square footage of the building. It stays as it is. There is an outdoor area where they're talking about having a fenced-in area that they would do some beta testing of some security research and development that they have. This would be an area where they would do what they call beta testing only for scanning devices, scanning operations that they have that would ultimately be used for surveillance technology. But there would be actually no formal testing taking place in there of any actual contraband or anything like that. So that's that area that's highlighted in yellow that would be fenced in and separated off. So they would still comply with all their parking requirements even by using that area as they're showing it to them. So what I thought might be helpful in the interest of time, I could have maybe Frank briefly walk through the plan, and then both Peter and Jim are here to answer any questions you may have about their operations. But
Before we do that, at the risk of keeping everyone here a little bit longer and missing more of the hockey game, Joe and I had the benefit of meeting earlier today and learning a little bit about your business. I think it would benefit the rest of the board if you could just give us a brief summary of what it is that you do. I found it very interesting. I think everyone would like to know more.
Yeah, we started in handheld X-ray technology, so our first product was a lead paint analyzer used to detect lead in paint.
Can you pull that mic a little bit closer, please?
Sorry, used to detect lead paint. So we developed a system that could detect it at much lower levels. Through the Flint, Michigan crisis, was found that lead is very dangerous to children, even at very small levels. We won a big award with the city of New York and helped them. Mayor de Blasio was holding up our instrument last month at a conference. But the product that we're really excited about is a handheld X-ray imager that we've had out in local law enforcement to find drugs, traps, and cars. So that product has been revolutionary to law enforcement over the last year. We've found millions of dollars in seized cash and tons of drugs that have been trafficked on our interstate highways. We recently won an award with CBP to outfit the entire southern border with this equipment. And what they've asked us to do is to actually build a vehicle portal to scan passenger vehicles that come across the southern border. And that's the beta system that we're talking about, is scaling up that X-ray technology to find drugs at a much bigger scale at the border.
So if I understand correctly, this portal, people would drive through it, or slowly, I assume, and it would detect any contraband that may be in the vehicle.
Yeah, because right now our technology is in a handheld format. When an officer would go around and look for things, typically they'd have to use a tool and disassemble a car across the highway. Now within minutes, they can find hidden, what we call traps, where they hide drugs or other types of contraband. With this, what CBP has been talking about, it's got a lot of news, and with Congress, it's one of the first bipartisan things that's really gone through, is to fund non-intrusive inspection at the border. They think 98% of the drugs are coming across the southern border, and they don't have the technology to be able to do that. President Trump's been down there. He's been briefed on our product with the handheld, and there's a funding that's been put in place for the next 3 years to outfit this technology at the southern border. So we're scrambling to, we've got the product designed and complete. Now we really need to move in the building and do some demonstrations. And we've already been selected to be at Laredo and Brownsville, Texas, to pilot our technology later this fall on a full scale. Yeah, so we're excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're not getting biotech, but we should.
Yeah, no, security is very hot in Boston.
Yes.
It's a very strong industry, and Boston is viewed as the hotbed for it. There's a lot of companies around here, but we picked Burlington because we want to draw talent from the North Shore, from the South Shore, from Newton, It's just a perfect location for us from New Hampshire to get the talent to build these types of equipment. So we think it's a perfect spot.
Great,
Let me
thank
be
you.
one of the first to welcome you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I thank you for
Of course.
telling us about the business. I think it would be of interest, not just to the board, but to everyone who's watching at home on TV, because most people are watching us as opposed to the hockey game right now. Frank, now if you could, please. Thank you.
Again, for the record, Frank DiPietro, and I will try to keep this under 5 minutes. Last time it was only 3 minutes. So really, there are two areas on the site that will be modified. There's an existing, we noted there's a trash compactor. It's actually a emergency generator. So 2 hearings, 2 mistakes tonight, sorry. That's going to be removed. This will be an access into the building here. The real interesting piece is this area outlined in yellow. It takes up 19 existing parking spaces. There'll be an 8-foot-high green vinyl, clad fence around that, right over here. And as I understand it, there are 2 components of this beta system. There'll be pylons here where a vehicle can be driven through it, so they'll get the horizontal and vertical. And then there'll be a ground level that can shoot up underneath the vehicle itself, so they can get basically all sides. There will be 2 small storage sheds. There will be some utility connections to the building so they can transmit. That's basically all the site work. There's still plenty of parking. You can see in this area here. There's parking on this side of the building as well. They have shared parking along this area. So again, that's basically it, folks.
Okay, thank you, Frank. That was less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's quick.
Working on it, you know.
Kristen?
I'm all for adding all these cool companies that are in the news, and we can say, hey, they're in Burlington. I don't really have very many comments, other than, so I'll start from the beginning. I did have a question for the board just on the fence, and based on some of our past discussions, wanted to make sure, discuss the fence material, but also make sure there wasn't barbed wire or anything else on the fence, which is not friendly to pedestrian areas. Also, just to revise the parking table to include the lab component of the building, restripe the parking, repair any of the site itself is in okay shape, but I just want to make sure that they do an analysis of the curbing, especially around drainage, so the drainage is working as it's supposed to repair any broken curbing within the site. And I didn't drive by there, and I did Google Earth it, but there's this big, huge mulched area in the front. Is there landscaping in that now, or is it still just a big circle of mulch?
It's a wildflower planting that we put in
Okay.
at the end of last year, so there should be.
At the end of, okay, so it's there. When you
There should be
looked at it,
wildflowers growing.
I mean, it's like the size of a giant pool, but it's just mulch. So, okay, if there's something there, we just wanted to enhance that frontage. And then just to if there's monitoring wells on site, to make sure we show them on the site plan. And that whatever they're doing doesn't interfere with those monitoring wells. So with that, the question I just leave for the board is just the fence question. But otherwise, we are excited for the use and excited for them to be successful, so we can tell everybody at parties and backyard barbecues that we have cool things going on in Burlington. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ernie, would you like to start us off?
Sure. The fenced-in area is in the very rear of the site, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
So, and is it visible from the street? Is that uphill or downhill? I don't recall.
It actually,
It's where the arrow is, where
Do you
Liz has
see
the
where
arrow.
this is? It's
Visible
literally
from
right.
Route 3.
Okay.
so
All right.
that green area that blue area right there is where we'll be putting in that fenced in at the end of the parking.
Okay.
So that is correct on the Google map, yes.
Okay. Other than that, no, I was just looking at your website, and I would urge some people who are interested, it's very interesting.
Thank you, Ernie. Bill?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess on the fence material, where you're alluding to is a chain link with the green slats. Typically, that over time, your green slats tend to lose it, so we're looking for a little different materials. Is that your suggestion, Kristen?
My suggestion was,
Because it turns out to be crappy in 5
the
years.
slatted vinyl fences are not usually
Not
our
optimal.
preferred, but it's in the back of the site.
No, I
It's up
prefer
to you guys.
What's the option? What's the better option in your opinion?
Just a
It's a
vinyl
regular
fence.
vinyl.
You know,
The
vinyl, white
stage
vinyl, black vinyl,
6 foot.
stockade, and
Any
anything.
vinyl is good.
I'll leave it up to the board, but yeah, certainly not a, not the
but
chain link with the green.
It had come up as a question, so I wanted to raise it
Yep,
for the rest
sure.
of you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I would let the rest of the board comment on what materials they'd like to see there instead of the chain link with the green. My question here is going from the building to the back of that parking lot, is there currently a walkway there to get there versus going out the street and around and back and in?
I'll let Frank.
What's the plan for that? 'Cause you're
There
not
is
gonna-
no formal sidewalk from here to this point you're talking about, behind the building?
Well, so what's the access from, how the employees are gonna get from the building and then over to the Beta area?
There'd be access here, and then on this side to the rear, there's access all along this area.
Okay, so I guess my question is, what kind of access, are they trumping through the woods, is there a gravel path, is there?
I'm sorry, let me make sure I understand your question, Bill.
Yeah.
So, there's not access from here to here.
Yeah.
There's access into the building on this side of the building, and there's access on this side of the building. I guess you'd go through the building. I don't think people would want to walk all this distance.
So, yeah, I guess, let me try my question again. From the access to the building to the back to the Beta site, how is that? Is that paved, is it a gravel? Is it-
There is actually a sidewalk in that area.
Thank
from
you.
the building, so.
Thank you. And then just the question from a business standpoint, you've got the X-ray, which you talked a lot about, and then you've got kind of that second piece, which is the XRF.
Yeah.
It sounds like more of your business on the X-ray versus the XRF side of things.
Yeah, correct. Both, that's a handheld instrument. The Beta site would be more for the vehicle, drive-through
So
vehicle
your
portals.
percentage of that is probably, would you say 80% X-ray, 20% XRF?
Right now, it's probably 60% X-ray, 40% XRF, but over the next year, it's going to flip
And the other side's going down.
way,
Okay.
way towards the
Thank you.
X-ray. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome.
Just a quick question, Madam Chair. Curiosity's sake, how far along are you with the vehicle scanning system? Is it close to implementation? Are you just starting on it, or?
Yeah, so we're, right now, our handheld is done. It's been out for 2 years. The vehicle portal system, all the subsystems have been designed. We have the parts. We're just working through some different technologies that we're experimenting with of integrating into it, but we're ready to go, and CBP is very anxious to have us in there soon. So we're anxious to move in as quickly as possible.
Thank you. That's all I had, Madam
A
Chair.
lot of drugs coming across the border. We want
Yeah.
to stop as quickly as possible.
I have a curiosity question too. Do your employees have to wear any protective clothing because they're working with the X-rays all the time?
Yeah, so they wear, anytime they're working around X-rays, we'll have a personal dosimeter, but other than that, there's safety built into the systems. How it works is there has to be a vehicle that would have to be moving through it to be on, there's safety stops, so all those things are built into the system. Yeah, please, yeah.
Our unique technology is called reflective X-ray, which is hundreds of times lower dose, which is why you can actually use it in a drive-through portal.
Okay.
So the dose to a passenger in one of the vehicles is equivalent to a few minutes of background radiation. So it's considered to be essentially a negligible dose. So it's a very safe technology. But as Jim said, we use all the, safety interlocks and safety monitoring to make sure.
Thank you. That's what I was curious about, because I know when I get dental X-rays, they cover me with a lead apron.
Right.
And I assume you can't do that when you're working, so.
No, so it's ultra low dose type of X-ray.
Yeah, I think the best way to think about it is, when transmission CT, you need enough energy to go through something. We're looking at what's reflected back, which is a lot lower energy. But it just so happens that drugs and organics, that's the best way to see them. That's why we've been
Thank you.
successful with this.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Joe?
Comments?
Yes, please.
Board of Selectmen, no comments. Inspector Billings, no objection. DPW Engineering, no objection. Police Department, no comment. Fire Department, Approval as submitted. Board of Health. Board of Health is the standard Board of Health comments. Mark, you have that, right?
Yeah, we have a
So-
copy of those, Joe.
Yeah,
Those
so
are all
I
fine.
don't think I even need to read through that, it's fairly standard, so. And then the conservation is no objection. There are no conservation issues or concerns with the application, so. Other than that, it's phenomenal. I think that's just such a cool technology, and I'm glad it's gonna be implemented
Thank you.
very soon. It needs to
Yeah.
be, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
No, you answered my question. I was wondering if the person stayed, if a person stayed in the car, but you said the dosage of radiation is so low that, I was gonna say, if in fact you see anything, spot anywhere, I go to Lay's, so he just went through and check is left alone. Thank you.
If you
Jack?
spend hundreds of thousands to find it, the smugglers will spend millions to hide it. So it'll be an ongoing
gonna keep
game of
busy.
hide and seek, I'm sure. But for now, you seem to have the edge, and that's good.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think there's anyone in the audience to ask, so I assume there's no one with any questions. All right.
Just a comment relative to the fence. I had just a chance to chat with
That's right.
Peter. So I think our preference would be to have the 8-foot black chain link with the slats if possible for security. I mean, we'd be committed to replacing the slats if they fell into disrepair or whatnot. It only benefits us to make sure that area is properly secured. But if that would be our preference with a requirement if the board wanted to build it in that we need to periodically replace the slats to make sure they don't fall into disrepair. But
You said an 8-foot fence?
it's an 8-foot.
Why is that the preference?
Color doesn't matter.
I'm sorry?
Is it because of the way you're using it that that's the preference, or is it just a design preference?
So it just needs to be secured.
Vinyl
We have to
fence.
make sure that there's no trespassing in that area, so we want a 8-foot fence for security purposes.
Oh, I understand that. I meant, why do you prefer a chain link fence as opposed to a vinyl fence that looks a little nicer?
You can drive through a vinyl.
That, if it has the same security, that would be fine.
Is that the problem? You can drive through a vinyl
Well,
fence?
you can take a sledgehammer and get
Nobody's
through
gonna
vinyl.
see it
I
back
don't
there.
think that was,
They can
you're not
bolt
concerned
cutter and
about
get through a
vandalism,
chain
are
link,
you?
so-
Yeah, true. Good point.
No.
No, okay.
I mean, we were told that sometimes young people hang out in that parking lot, and we were to make sure that there was enough lighting and security cameras to secure the area. So whatever fence we choose is just to make sure that the
It's secure.
installation is secure and not
I understand.
vandalized or affected in any way.
So the
Whatever
question
is the
would
best
be,
way.
with the vinyl fence, does it come in 8 foot? I know it comes in 6. I'm
Imagine
not
it
sure
would.
if it would come in 8, but
And I think you're gonna have an issue with the vinyl, with the gate, so I think you're gonna have a hybrid no matter what, to make sure the gate is as secure, unless they can find a way to secure the enclosure with vinyl. But I can work on them. Your preference is a solid vinyl privacy fence, and their preference is security, so we can try to find a hybrid
Okay.
before they go in.
I'm comfortable with conditioning that you will approve that with staff.
Yeah, sure.
Because we certainly don't want to be on the hook for not a safe enough fence, but.
I mean, I would suggest if, and I don't know if this is a possibility, if you decide that the vinyl is not secure enough and you needed to go with a chain link, is there a possibility of doing some plantings around it, arborvitae's or something that would, kind of screen it and soften it and not make it look as commercial?
It's a pretty wooded area. I took a drive back there, and there's a lot of trees
Yeah,
around. You're
there's
really not going to
nothing-
see it from anywhere.
woods, Chuck.
There's a
My
lot of
concern is
trees.
the upkeep.
nobody's gonna be
If you look at any, chain link fence in
They rust.
flats, and and I know you promised to upkeep it, but it's just, they just don't. So that's why I was saying, you don't want it looking crappy back there over
Yeah.
5, 10 years, and all of a sudden, it becomes an eyesore.
I mean, is it visible at all from any other parking areas?
So
or
the reason we wanted that location is for privacy. We're developing a high-tech system that we actually don't want we don't want it to be visible. So that corner of the upper parking lot is not visible from the roadway.
Very secluded back there.
There'll be nobody down there but you.
Hopefully.
And high school kids drinking beer.
And the hovering drones.
Is it full
Well,
24
there's
hours?
no roof over this. No, okay. The drone thing just made me think of that.
Yes.
Okay, I
We
think,
can't condition drones.
I think we can just leave it that you will approve the fence with staff. Okay? All right,
Oh, I hate gotten stuff.
okay.
Want a motion
I would like one,
to
yes.
close the public hearing on this
Second.
matter?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request of Viking Detection Corporation for special permits pursuant to Section 12.1.5, PD special permit of the zoning bylaw in Section 1.5.1, light manufacturing or processing plants in Section 1.5.2, laboratories engaged in research, experimental, and testing activities of the Northwest Park Plan Development District zoning provisions at 21 North Avenue, subject to terms and conditions contained in Exhibit D as amended, as attached and amended.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 7-0. Welcome. It sounds
Good
like a
luck.
very exciting company, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much.
When do you think you'll be
Enjoy the game.
opening?
Keep us posted.
September 1st?
December?
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
We got nanotechnology, we got desktop
Great.
construction, so forth, so welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So fellow board members, I have failed in getting sent out by 9. We do have a few more things we have to run through, but if we are
You're a minute over.
efficient, I think you might be able to watch the third period. The first item on our discussion list is the Conservation's Open Space and Recreation Plan. They have asked us to submit a letter of support, and it's really a very simple letter that just says, "We support." Does anyone have any questions about this?
I was the board member there, went to most of the meetings. Liz and Josh went to most of the meetings. They had a very good consultant. They did a lot of work and put together a very nice document, and like other plans, it helps get grant money.
Right.
And I think they've done a good job, and it's worth our support.
I agree. Does anyone have any objections?
No, no objections.
All right, then
Make a
I'm,
motion to approve the open space and recreation plan, OSRP.
Seconded.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 7-0. Okay, the next item is the affordable housing units in 160 Cambridge Street, the residences at Simon Park. As you all know, I think as you all know, we were hoping to get a third unit in that building, but because our bylaw, the bylaw that was applicable for this site was only in effect for a very short period of time, but they're sort of grandfathered in there, the negotiations have been difficult. You can read for yourself the facts that are at play here, but basically, the decision that we need to make is, do we want to accept a figure from the developer, a figure of $195,750, which is payment for 9/10 of a unit, as opposed to trying to negotiate with the developer for us to purchase the 10% and get the unit. We have done some negotiation up to this point. We offered what we considered was a very reasonable and fair offer, which was declined. If we enter into negotiations, we need to keep in mind that even if we were to come to an agreement, anything that we agreed upon to pay for that third unit would have to be approved by town meeting. So we may go through that process and then go to town meeting, and it could be disapproved. If we decide tonight, we can vote to accept the $195,000, which would then go into, would be combined with other funds that we also have. It would be earmarked for affordable housing, and it could be used in the future to either purchase affordable units or to purchase, what's the word I'm looking for? Deed restrictions on existing units that would then therefore be affordable in perpetuity. So I would love to hear what the board thinks about this.
Has the Board of Selectmen or administration weighed in on this, and do they have a position?
Administration has weighed in. We've been working with Paul Sagarino. Is Paul in agreement with us on this? I haven't spoken to him in the last couple of days.
Where we left it with administration a while back was bring it back to the planning board. The planning board should decide they were comfortable with taking, I mean, obviously, you know, if you can get the third unit, but, you know, at what
cost?
Cost, price,
Yes.
time. And they were not up for continued negotiation.
Okay.
So they don't have a recommendation, but they would prefer us not to get into litigation.
Well, that's always the unspoken
Well,
preference.
Well, the fact of the matter is, the way,
Sometimes it's always unspoken, but sometimes it's nice of them to actually say it.
the way the bylaw is written, they are required to pay us for the 9/10 unit. They are not required to accept payment from us for the 10%.
that was only in effect for 3 months, is
That's
that
right,
correct?
and it's been changed, it's been
Okay.
fixed. So we can negotiate with them, but we can't require them to accept a payment from us for that third unit. We can, it's my opinion, and this is just my opinion as one person, because I've been back and forth working on this for a while, and I don't think that the counteroffer from the developer is reasonable. I also don't think that they are going to agree to something that we would consider reasonable. It's my opinion that we should take the $195,000 and walk away.
Done.
It's only one unit,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And we don't need affordable units.
We're in
At
a
one
good
time, we
position
would,
right now.
you know, scrap and fight for an affordable.
Yes, we're in a good position right now, and we do get, it's a significant sum of money.
Yeah.
Does anyone object?
No objection.
No objection.
All right, then I am
Motion?
looking. Yes, please.
I just want to make one
Go ahead.
comment. I think,
Sorry.
so without him actually saying it, you're feeling that Jim probably would be on board with that as well, right?
I believe Jim has agreed, correct?
He's actually
That's my
verbalized
understanding.
that, yeah.
Yes.
But he's put some time in this, and I
He
think
has, we all have.
Administration.
And it was our preference, of course, to get the third unit, but
Right?
it's not going to happen at a reasonable price.
I think the administration, you said, left it with the planning board to make
Yes,
the
they did.
decision, right? So,
Yes.
Okay.
So let me just
Sorry.
quickly, before you read the motion, just because it's important. So right now, the units are not approved by DHCD yet. And that is because of some of this back and forth that's going on. So what has been suggested through discussions with council and administration is, once you decide that we will hold back the 2 units to be affordable, there'll be an agreement between the developer, the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Board, and the Housing Partnership, is how it's written right now. So your motion includes to hold back those 2 units until they're SHI approved, so you
When you
can't
say
rent them.
hold back, you mean an occupancy permit?
Yeah, so those cannot be occupied until they're approved SHI units by DHCD, which we don't think should take a long time, but it depended on this. So it's, once this is approved, then we go to DHCD. So those 2 units will be not occupied until they're approved, so.
So we can give a partial occupancy
We
permit?
can, that's what the agreement's gonna state. And what this motion gives you is to allow for the chairman to sign that agreement. So that's also part of this
So
motion.
if we don't agree, we say continue to negotiate, then the occupancy permit for the rest of the units is not approved?
Correct.
Oh, so we get a lot of leverage. You get ton of leverage.
We do, but we've been
No,
examining.
they're both,
Not
they're
really.
both, the rest of in both of these situations, after today, the agreement goes into place, and that's the agreement to let
No.
either, what is it, 27 or 26 units out.
Right,
And then the agreement would be just for those.
Right, but Bill, we have been holding off on the occupancy permit this time, trying to use it as leverage, and it hasn't worked. Surprised me too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Our recommendation would be option one.
Yes,
At
it-
this point.
Because we have been trying
Sure.
and failed to get a reasonable agreement.
Yeah, and we're not setting a precedent either, because this was only in
That's
effect
right.
for 3 months.
That's right.
So,
Okay, thank
and
you.
it's only one
Thank you,
unit,
Patrick.
blah, 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 blah.
Okay, thank you.
Want the motion? The planning board hereby accepts the applicant's payment for the fractional units in the amount of $195,750 pursuant to the January 2010 zoning bylaws, to be used to further affordable housing options in the town of Burlington. The planning board further allows the planning board chairman to sign on behalf of the planning board the agreement to hold 2 affordable units until such time as they are accepted by DHCD.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Thank you, everyone. 9:10.
9:10, you guys did a
Wow, good
fantastic
job, Chairman.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Oops, I just want one item, and
Yeah.
I'm the first one I want to be out of here as well, but that, last time I had brought up that white construction building, the one that piano place is behind there. I said the siding was falling off, and I said there was a piece on 3A.
The sidewalk, yeah.
I thought it was actually cleaned up. It actually still sits on 3A.
Is that right?
It's been at least a month, maybe more. A big piece of siding from the side of that building is on 3A, on the street itself, and the owners have done nothing about it.
State doesn't do much maintenance there either,
The
do they?
state didn't do anything about it either, but the fact is, it came off of their building, and it's sitting right there in front of on the street.
Where is this, Joe?
The
35
white
King
construction, where the piano.
Piano place is
piano
the
place,
old
yeah.
building in
The
front.
siding that's fallen
Across
off?
from Century Bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The siding that's fallen off, it's fallen right onto the street. It's been there for over a month, and nobody's picked it up. It's on 3A.
People just driving over it?
Big piece of siding.
People
It's on the
just-
side. It's pushed to the side now, up against the curb, but it's on 3A. I mean, the owners of the building have to drive by it every single day, and they see it out there, and they don't do a single damn thing. Outrageous.
So who gets that action? I guess is we sending a letter to Mass Dot or to the owner, or what's the?
I mean, there's plenty of violations going on there with signs in windows and everything else as
Those
well.
that- Building inspector, or?
Yeah, it's on our whiteboard of things to be done. It's on the board.
Well, the building is getting to look derelict.
It's horrible.
Agreed.
And we were told it wasn't going to get that way.
It's true.
We have had a few calls about people interested in those properties, so I'm not sure if there's been a
She needs
change
to
or
sell it if she can't take care of it.
of those.
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0.
So now that I'm pushing this way,